G'day guys, here on YouTube. So tonight we're actually going to be streaming live for the first time on YouTube. So at the same time I'm actually going to be streaming on our normal service, which is Facebook Live. So I just wanted to set you guys up firstly. I know the text there is reversed. I don't know how to flip that, figured that out with Facebook, not YouTube yet, but I'll get that sorted. So if that's the only error we have on our first time, then not a bad way. But today, what we're here to do is talk about the top performing property markets of 2019. Just going to kick my my other live broadcast off, and then we'll get stuck straight into it. All right. G'day guys, it's Tim Guest here, Australia's leading financial educator and the Managing Director of Infinite Wealth. Well, Merry Christmas to everyone, and I hope everyone had a fantastic new year. I hope it was relaxing. I hope you got to eat and drink lots of food. I hope you got to spend it with the people that you love. I hope you got to get some time off and get well and truly rested. All fired up to get 2019 ready to go. We've now got our first Tim's Q&A, Tim's 2 cents for 2019. And what we've been getting is quite a lot of questions about what people should expect when it comes to property. In particular, I got a question through from, and look, for those of you out there, if you know about the pronunciation, I believe it's a Chinese name, and I think the way you pronounce it is she. So if anyone knows Mandarin or Cantonese better than I, please let me know if I've pronounced that correctly. I want to make sure that I get it right for our clients. But she sent through a question: what will be the top property or the top performing property markets of 2019? So I've been doing lots of research over the break, and I wanted to basically condense down into what a lot of the experts are predicting is going to happen here in 2019. But a couple of logistics things before we get into it. Oh, and actually just one thing that you want to stay tuned for as well. There's actually one particular property market which has been doing it tough over the last couple of years that is actually set to shine over the coming years. So stay tuned to find out what that is, because it could have an impact on you. But look, a couple of logistics things before we get stuck into it. First of all, if it's your first time tuning in, or if you're a long time follower, welcome back. Of course, we love to see your interaction with these videos. So please love, comment, angry, all that kind of stuff. If you've got questions yourself that you want me to answer in one of these live broadcasts, then please put that down in the comment box below so that we can get stuck into it. Or you can just simply contact us through the Infinite Wealth website, and that'll get to me, and I'll do my best to get all your answers. Like I said, I hope everyone had a fantastic new year. Personally, I think I put on a couple extra kilos. What about you? If you put on some extra kilos, put a comment down, or let us know how you went on your Christmas. Or maybe 2019 is the year for you to really fulfill on some of your goals, whether it be your health and fitness goals. Maybe it's got something to do with your money goals. So let's talk primarily about what is in store for property here in Australia over the coming year. Now, firstly, the thing that what a lot of the experts are predicting, if we look at the fundamentals that underlie the Australian property market at the moment, simple fact of the matter is that the majority of capital cities in Australia, their fundamentals are actually pointing towards some boom conditions. So I want to run through what those conditions are before we start talking about the individual property market. So I've actually gone through and made a whole bunch of notes about the underlying fundamentals. One of the most strongest fundamentals comes to employment. People don't have jobs, people don't have money, they're not out there buying property. So we've seen really strong performance in the Australian economy when it comes to employment. Over the last couple of years, we've added at least 300,000 plus jobs in 2 consecutive years. We've seen falling unemployment, and we're now down to about 5%, which is the lowest that it has been for quite a long time. And this is starting to provide some significant pressure on the supply of labour. So once you start to see some significant pressure on the supply of labour, what we also start to see coming through is wage growth, and people need to feel like they're doing well. They've got money coming in, that their household income is growing. That's what encourages people to either upgrade their property or get into a house or convert from renting into a property. So this is really important when it comes to the housing market. Not only that, on the back of that, and obviously this is the main fundamental of the economy, but the Australian economy is performing really strongly as well. So we're due for a budget surplus for the first time in many years in 2019, which, considering going through the GFC, that's really impressive that we've entered our budget surplus so early. Also, we've seen a lot of comments from the Reserve Bank Governor Glenn Stevens about, last year we saw GDP growth at around about 3.5%. He's predicting over the next 2 years we're going to continue to see that increase as well. And I think we've had around about 6 or 7 years of consistent growth when it comes to, or consistent strong growth when it comes to the Australian economy. On top of that, we've also got low inflation, and then we've also got strong business conditions as well. Now, if we turn it down towards housing supply, 5 out of the 8 capital cities around Australia, we're seeing housing supply tighten. As an example, vacancy rates very low around the country and continuing to tighten. And what this is also doing is starting to put upward pressure on rent. So we're starting to see rents increase around the country as well. And of course, this has primarily been buoyed by the simple fact of the matter is we've got huge population growth. I mean, over the last couple of years, we've seen more than 350,000 people, or see our Australian population grow by about 350,000 people. At the same time, you know, in terms of the business conditions that I'm talking about, I mean, we're in the middle of a tourist boom last year, $42.5 billion the tourism industry brought into Australia. We've got several free trade agreements which kick in this year as well, which is going to see tens of billions of dollars being injected into the Australian economy. We're seeing commodities demand, things like iron ore, lithium, continuing, the demand worldwide is continuing to be strong. And of course, international students, that's a significant part of our economy as well. So we've got the international students brought in $34 billion last year. And the Australian government has also just kicked off their defence manufacturing program, which is going to run over the next 10 years. And it's going to see submarines, ships, things like that being built, $290 billion. So this is all very, very strong signs for the Australian economy. At the same time, interest rates, very stable. We don't expect to see any interest rates move until about 2020. There is also the chances of an interest rate drop actually starting to increase, particularly with the way that the restrictions that APRA have placed on lending is starting to impact the Melbourne and Sydney markets. So in terms of the fundamentals that underlie the Australian economy, very, very strong. One of the things that is probably we're seeing, and you really want to keep your head out of the media. Keep in mind the media very focused on the Sydney and Melbourne markets. Why? Because that's where they're based. And of course, those markets, after going through significant growth periods, I mean, since the GFC, we've seen Sydney and Melbourne both double in value. So for them to start coming off is really not surprising. And I would actually, my expectation, particularly what we're seeing with things like what the Treasurer is saying, the Reserve Bank Governor is saying, particularly from the fallout from the Banking Royal Commission, we've seen that tight lending policy or tight lending approach that the banks have also continued to deepen, I guess, the downturn at Melbourne and Sydney. I think what you're going to start to see, we've already seen APRA start to release some of those restrictions. You're going to start to see lending become a lot easier, and it's going to certainly ease during this year. This will not only soften the landing in Melbourne and Sydney, but what it's also going to do is those markets, those other markets around Australia, which have got those strong fundamentals that underlie it, which have been really waiting to kind of kick off and go. I think as you start to see credit ease, we're really going to start to see these markets jump. So that's exactly what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about what are going to be the top performing markets in Australia in 2019. Well, firstly, let's start with number one. Number one, the experts are predicting at the moment that Hobart will be the top performing capital city in Australia for 2019. It's already seen some very strong growth there over the last couple of years. It's going to continue to grow strong, although towards the end of the year, we do expect to start to see Hobart soften, but we wouldn't be surprised to see double-digit growth in Hobart. And of course, that will start to flow out to the regionals in Tasmania as well. So we're going to see places like Launceston, Burnie and Devonport start to get really strong growth as well. Now let's also talk about number two, and this is the capital city that might catch you off guard. This is what the experts are saying, is that Perth, the capital city that's probably been really struggling in primarily due to the resources downturn. I mean, there was a downturn expected in that market. However, this downturn has certainly played out a lot longer, primarily because of APRA's intervention when it comes to lending. Okay, essentially, jobs growth have been very, very strong in Western Australia. This is also wages. You may have heard me talk about this in a couple of the other videos, but wages, particularly in the FIFO sector, there's been a 35% jump over the last 12 months when it comes to FIFO wages. So strong wage growth is going to be occurring in Western Australia. Once again, their economy is really lifting there as well, primarily driven by the resource and commodities sector. And of course, we've also started to see population growth get really strong in Western Australia as well. Vacancy rates, we've seen the vacancy rate in Perth half in a very short period of time. So this is primarily led, once again, by the population growth And of course, the oversupply that came through the boom that we saw between about 2011, 2014, that's certainly eased now. Now, one of the things they wouldn't be surprised, particularly if APRA starts to ease its lending criteria, a lot of the experts wouldn't be surprised to actually see Perth hit number 1. And this is the capital city that these experts are predicting will be the top performing capital city between now and about 2021. So if you're looking at investing, Perth is certainly somewhere to consider. Number 3, there's actually a tie for number 3. So a lot of the experts can't really agree about Brisbane or Adelaide. So Brisbane, we've been seeing some marginal growth there over the last couple of years. The fundamentals have certainly been present there. However, we haven't really seen that kind of market tick off there. And we're also starting to see Adelaide move. Of course, Adelaide hasn't really done anything for quite a long time now. So it is due for a growth sector. So pretty much that rounds out the top 3, guys. So you've got Hobart number 1, Perth number 2, and Adelaide and Brisbane tying for number 3. We also expect to see some strong performance in the regionals as well. We've seen that obviously as the Sydney and Melbourne come off, you start to see those regionals perform strongly. But the experts are also really looking at Western Australia and Queensland as the economy continues to strengthen around Australia. Also, the demand continues to grow for commodities. We expect to see the regionals in those states perform very strongly as well. So look, I hope that answers your question for you. Like I said to anyone else out there, if you've got any questions, queries about anything else that we've discussed, please get them into the comment box. We've also got some notes there about the next live event that I'm going to be doing, January 23rd. I've got one booked in Perth. So if you want to come along and see me live, then click the link and secure 2 free tickets so that you can get 2019 started right for you. Apart from that, guys, thanks for tuning in. I really look forward to the next video. I'm going to be doing some news stories about what's happening in property and real estate on Thursday. So make sure you hover above the like button, click see notifications first, and please give me your feedback about your videos or how we can improve that to keep delivering exceptional value for you. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. Speak to you soon.